Coming up next on WKYU PBS, our second installment in our special edition outlook, American Graduate, Let's Make It Happen, part of the public media initiative looking at the dropout crisis in our nation. On this edition, we're going to take a look at what alternatives children have to keep them in school. Special edition outlook, American Graduate, is next. Outlook continues. I'm Barbara Deeb. This is a special edition Outlook. We're continuing our discussion. American Graduate, Let's Make It Happen. This is part of a national initiative looking at the dropout crisis. We brought you in part one a discussion, and I'm hoping we brought the microscope a little bit closer to let you know that while our area of the country, at least in South Central Kentucky, doesn't have as bad an issue as the national level, one child dropping out is too many. But what we want to bring you now is part two as we look at the many programs and the help that's out there to keep kids in school. Welcome to the program with me, if you will, Mary Ford, who is the, I want to get your title correct, Mary. You are with Bowling Green Technical College. You're the Director of Adult Education.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
In addition, Sharon Hunter joins us. She's the Coordinator of College Readiness. Sharon, pleasure. And Heather Keith and David Carner are with ETS, which is the Educational Talent Search. They're academic advisors, so we're going to find out more about what that is. But first, you're in the trenches, you're dealing with individuals who, they just want to get an education. They come to you for a GED. That's huge to make that step. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. As we can only serve students who are 16 years and older. And many of the students who drop out from high school, they have to bring a certificate showing that they have dropped out, and then we can serve those students. The GED, it's according to if students are ready and if they need remediation as to how long. A lot of students come in, they want the GED today.
Yeah, can I come in and fill out this paperwork?
Right, and maybe they score on the 5th grade level. So we try to encourage them that with some remediation, and we'll retest you later. Because usually if a student, we do a TABE assessment, that's Test of Adult Basic Education. That is the assessment we use to diagnose where students are. Usually if students can score 10th grade level and above on that particular assessment, they can pass the GED without remediation.
But that's got to be a big decision for someone who's dropped out of school, who's maybe, 5 years down the road, has a couple of kids, right, and they realize they're not getting anywhere without a high school education. Right. What does it take, for them to come to you and say, I'm going to do this?
Yes, and many of them are very nervous. It's like you have to take their hands.
Almost.
And they need a lot of encouragement, nurturing, and so once we get them comfortable, because they are very nervous, they say, but I let them know, this is your second chance. You have a second chance where many may not. They come with a lot of reasons why they dropped out of school. Maybe they just didn't, It wasn't right for them. They had a problem with it, or maybe they lost a family member and they had to get out and help the family out financially. Sure. And many of them have had a job maybe 20 years, and all of a sudden their job is gone. So then they find out to get another job, they need a GED. They need a
GED. This might be a good time for us to throw in that animated graphic that we have, talking about the anatomy of a dropout. Mm-hmm. Because as you point out so aptly, and the rest of you can chime in here, really there's no one size fits all dropout, high school dropout. There are so many reasons, and David, you speak to this, I know, because there are a lot of different reasons.
And there's anything from, like she mentioned before, people needing to work for the family. School just wasn't right for them. Mm-hmm. Who knows what's going on in some of their home lives when they were in high school or middle school or wherever it is they drop out at. Most times now it is high school because of the 16 rule. There's numerous reasons. You think of it, it's probably a reason as to why someone dropped out at some point.
Well, now, I want to address educational talent search. Help us understand, and Sharon, you said it's kind of under your umbrella, so let's help us understand what that is, because what we want people to know is that there is help out there. Even if you've gone the route of dropping out, you know, you can still, you're getting a second chance. There are second chances out there, or we can stop it before you need a second chance. So address that, if you will.
Well, let me say, we're under the same division at WKU. That's what I meant, in the same umbrella, and we're at slightly different ends of the spectrum. Our outreach with college readiness deals with the high school and middle school students, and it augments or feeds into what Talent Search has been doing for a number of years. But with Senate Bill 1, we felt an additional need to go out and make it non-WKU specific, and we talked to the students about the whole pipeline, about the fact that for every 100 Kentucky students, we lose about 33 or 34 from 9th grade to high school graduation. We cannot afford to lose 1 out of 4 classrooms. So we let the students know about that particular fact, and we start to tell them how they can avoid that. It's sort of, they give them the initial inoculation. As they're coming through, we give the booster shot when they get to middle school and high school, because they told us that's where they needed that. And then I'll let you all talk about your good work.
Well, ETS, so basically what is it? You're targeting students who might be at risk?
Well, our primary target is first generation low income. So neither parent in the household has completed a bachelor's level degree or higher. And according to the U.S. Census Bureau and the current economic climate and unemployment statuses compared to their household size, they meet that low income level.
And our program is, we go into, along with my colleague Dale Brown, I think you've talked to, we go into the high schools and middle schools. We don't target any specific demographic. We talk to everyone, because what we've seen here at WKU is that later dropout where we don't retain them, the students may have a 3.9. They could come in with a 33, 34 ACT. It's the college-going culture. If they're a first-generation student, this is a whole new experience. And it's that booster shot mentality. I can't get over that.
But you can't get them to the booster till you inoculate them. So how do you target them?
Well, Ms. Ford already spoke to a large component of our program when she said encouragement. So once they make that decision to reach out, our primary purpose is to encourage them to persist through high school and enroll in post-secondary education. And we do that by providing them with educational services and guidance, and work is sort of a built-in support system for them that they may not have.
So easier said than done. We're going to be your support system. Okay. What does that mean?
You want to talk about? Okay. Well, each grade level, it's very structured. We serve students at Warren East, Warren Central, and Bowling Green High School, 9th through 12th grade. Each year, we have a curriculum where we'll focus on something different. So at the 9th grade level, it's preparation. We want them to be ready for the rigors of high school academics. We want to teach them how to study. A lot of them come into high school, they don't know how to study.
Well, we heard that earlier when Dale Brown, you were talking about, your colleague was talking about the fact that they have narrowed it to you need to do this X amount of study per night. And these kids are like, they don't have a clue what that means, studying anymore. So that's huge.
And it's just 10 minutes per grade level is the other thing that it just shocks them that they need to do that.
And once they buy into that, though, you teach them the time management techniques, you teach them the study techniques, and they buy into it, they try it, and they see, they make that connection that it's working.
And this is something that I can actually do.
Right.
You know, we spoke a lot about the need to have somebody to care. You know, it's more than just I'm taking the plunge, I'm going to go back and get my GED, or I'm failing, I'm going to reach out and get this help. But just to have that voice, that support there that says, we're there for you. That means everything, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
We're just about out of time for this segment. What words of wisdom would you have for someone watching this show who maybe has a loved one who never got a high school degree, and you'd say there is a second chance?
There is a second chance, and give us a chance to help you to reach your particular goal, because never say, we don't believe in saying I can't.
So we say we can.
We can.
We can. And we're going to put up some telephone numbers at the end of the show if you want some more information where you can get some of these contact numbers. And Sharon, you want to leave us with some words of wisdom?
My mother went back, she married at 15, she went back and got her GED in her 30s because she wanted us to know that it was possible, and she could not tell us to further our education until she did it. And she was stubborn, and she went back and she did a marvelous job. And the boost in her confidence was something that meant a lot to all of us.
And ETS?
Well, one of our components is we look for students with potential to succeed, and it's hard to define that, so I like to think of it as motivation. So if we give you these tools, what are you going to choose to do with it? So it's more or less, where there's a will, there's a way.
Where there's a will, there's a way. And we're going to tell you about more innovative, wonderful programs that are taking place to keep kids in school when the special edition American Graduate Outlook continues right after this. Stay with us. WKYU PBS teamed up with Brian Pretty's 7th grade media class at South Warren Middle School to shoot and interview teachers about education and the dropout crisis in Kentucky. And here's what they had to say.
I think one of the first things that educators could do to make sure that students do not drop out of school is to make sure that each and every student is engaged in the school and in that learning environment, and that each student understands that they're an important part of that learning environment.
Outlook continues. You're watching a special edition. It's American Graduate, Let's Make It Happen. It's part of a national public media initiative looking at the dropout crisis in the nation. We're continuing our discussion now. Matt Baston rejoins us. He was in one of the earlier programs. Matt Baston is with the place called Lifehouse Academy. We're going to tell you more about that. He's the director of alternate programs. Thanks for being here. And Big Brothers Big Sisters, Brian Becker, who is the CEO of that area organization, joins us. It's also a national organization. And Abraham Williams joins us. He's the director of the Housing Authority of Bowling Green. Thanks so much to all of you for being here. We talked earlier in the first segment about, just that people, if they are a dropout, they need to know that there are second chances available. If they're considering dropping out, maybe there's some hope at intervening a little bit earlier. Now, what I understand is, especially with Big Brothers Big Sisters and the Housing Authority of Bowling Green, we've really had some success with intervening early on. Why is that important?
Well, I would say the choices, even little choices that students make every day while they're young, will be choices that can have tremendous consequences as they get older, and just a habit and a pattern of decision making, whether that's good or poor, that will catch up with them later, and for all of us the rest of our lives. And we always have to be aware of what our consequences are, both positive and negative. So catching them at a younger age is going to reinforce the message that it's important that they succeed. It's important that they want to succeed on their own, and not because a bunch of people are expecting it out of them.
Well, you talk about success, but Matt, earlier in the program, you were talking about the students that you deal with in general. There's a lack of goal orientation. There's a lack of working toward that something. How do you instill that in a child?
I believe it begins very young, and that's the great thing about the Leader in Me initiative by the Stephen Covey organization, is that it starts in the earliest of kindergarten, first and second grade. Think with the end in mind. And if you walk into several of the elementary schools in Warren County, they identify that this is not the first grade class, this is the class of 2025. And even some of the schools will have kids put caps and gowns on in kindergarten in the big, full high school gown, and they'll take a picture of them. And the goal is to get them thinking, I'm going to graduate. I'm the class of 2025. And so as we now in our third and fourth year of Leader in Me, we're very anxious to see, as these kids will begin to progress to middle school, to see the benefits of that organization and the Leader in Me concepts.
That's huge. So in other words, giving them the route with no detours.
Correct.
Quitting is not an option.
Not an option.
Speak to the Housing Authority of Bowling Green and some of its...
Everybody make it seem so simple, but it's not that simple. We believe there's no excuses every time you sit on the bottom. But again, a lot of times you need somebody to push you. A lot of our kids have good parents at home, but sometimes the parents don't know which direction to push them in. And that's really, it takes the communities and other people in the communities to help steer those young people towards their goal. A lot of times they need to see somebody who looks just like them who is successful, and they need to reach for that goal. And through the White Tribe program at the Housing Authority, we just said no excuses. If you want it, we have to get it. But again, they need someone I hate to just put it this way, but look like them to say, son, stop making excuses. Get off your butt. If you want it, you get it. If you don't, this is the consequences. Now let's get off your butt and let's go do something. And that has been our motto.
Well, and you worked on this. You were instrumental in making this Why Try program a reality. So why try is basically what you're saying. Why try? Well, let me tell you why.
If you don't try, it's two solutions. If you're lucky, you'll go to jail. If not, you're going to be shot or killed in something. And we deal with minority boys who's in the Bowling Green and Warren County school system, who a lot of times people have just turned their backs on them. If we look at the concept, our kids come from low-income areas. And not just low-income kids are bad, we're not saying that. It's that sometimes they just don't have the guidance that they need. The mother's working 1 or 2, maybe 3 jobs at times, so they come home to an empty house. Who talks to those kids? Who guide those kids? Those kids who are athletes can make it because they got everybody pushing for them. But what about the kid who's not in the band or a cheerleader or just no talent at all? Who take care of those kids? And what we do, we talk to these kids one-on-one. We go once a week and for 45 minutes, and we say, hey, cut out the excuses. I don't care where you come from. I don't care who your parents are. I don't know what color you are. Get off your butt and let's do something.
So mentoring is hugely important, and of course, Big Brothers Big Sisters has been around for a long time, and at the national level, that's what it's all about. It's kids who don't have that somebody that you're teaming up and you're pairing up. So why do you think mentoring makes that difference?
Well, a mentor is, by definition, a mentor is to a kid somebody who cares. It's a go-to person. And I think the more programs we have, like Big Brothers, like Why Try, the more that's out there, that's just the more mentors available. And that's the great thing about Why Try is it's designed specifically for one particular group, Big Brothers, Big Sisters. And it's every group that can put forth the resources to help these kids. And the key is, as Abraham mentioned, is that the kids know the person's there and they stick with them. And that's the great thing about Why Try is they try to make sure that mentor stays with those kids.
Consistency.
And the Big Brothers and Big Sisters, it's that same mentor. So the kid gets that relationship going, that person they can trust in to know that, hey, this person cares about me. And if they know somebody cares about them, then we can begin to instill that hope. Hey, let's stay in school, let's stay focused, let's get our goal, we can graduate high school.
So what ages are we talking about? You know, as we continue this series of discussions and open this dialogue, what we're hearing is to keep kids in school, to keep kids from dropping out of high school, you got to hit them at an earlier age. Now, is that just the nature of these times? Or has it always been that way? We need to get them at an early age and instill the importance of education. What's your thought on that, Brian?
That's a loaded question, but
yeah.
I believe that probably the temptations are presenting themselves at much earlier ages than ever before. I mean, we keep hearing from each generation that the generation following is worse off, or worse attitude, worse in their self-confidence and motivation and things like that. And I don't believe that's necessarily true. I think for our program, we don't believe that there's bad kids. I often say I don't think you would ever blame any of the kids that go off to make a bad decision that may have been in our program just because of the environmental factors, social factors that they've had to live through. You guys have already covered that on some of the other segments, you know, that you wouldn't really say it's because that kid was just a bad kid when they were born. It is what they've had to go through. And so just to have a champion, have someone that has your back, that can say, you can do this, you have something to offer to the world, and it may not even be what you thought it was, will be tremendously, a boost to their self-confidence tremendously to motivate them to aspire to whatever they want to.
You know, and in a lot of cases for some of these children, it's survival. It's pure and simple survival. We're going to talk about that and more about what's out there to help some of these students along the way to stay in school and graduate. When American Graduate Special Edition Outlook continues right after this. Stay with us. WKYU PBS teamed up with Brian Pretty's 7th grade media class at South Warren Middle School to shoot and interview teachers about education and the dropout crisis in Kentucky. And here's what they had to say.
I think that the most important reason students drop out of school would probably be lack of support at home, which it comes back to that parent contact. If you can get in contact with the parents and help them understand what's going on at school, help them understand what's going on with their child, then, that risk of dropping out may not happen anymore. But I think support at home would probably be the main factor.
We're continuing our special edition American Graduate, Let's Make It Happen. And what are we trying to make happen? We're trying to keep kids in school all the way through graduation, to graduate from high school and go on to college. We're welcoming back to the program Matt Baston, Brian Becker, and Abraham Williams, all of whom deal in different ways with kids and keeping kids in school. You know, Brian, before the break, you were talking about the importance of having someone there that cares, someone who's focused on them, a consistent somebody to tell them that they can do this and to be there for them. Big Brothers Big Sisters, of which you're the CEO, they did a study, and you actually found this to be true.
Yes, we a few years ago polled over 200 adults that had grown up with a big brother or big sister, and found that the vast majority of them had set higher goals for themselves in life. Many of them have gone off to get a 4-year college degree, were responsible, contributing members of society, getting involved in charities, and proud of where they were in life. And they actually compared it to folks that had not been in our program, and found a great disparity between those that did not have the program and those that did and were able to have that support.
And I think paramount to this discussion is, you know, looking at the child and the conditions from which they come. You pointed out, you know, these kids aren't bad, they aren't born bad, but in many cases they're doing everything they can simply to survive. You see this through the Housing Authority of Bowling Green?
We tell our kids that don't be a statistic. At the age of 4, they determine how many prisons they're going to build. And why do you have to be a statistics? Why can't you beat the odds? Can you beat them? Yeah, a whole lot of people beat them, just like you have. Our biggest goal at the Housing Authority is one thing. We have to bring in people who has been successful, who's probably come up through public housing, and who has made it. We have a program called Young Readers, where we go get church groups to come in, and they speak to one of our kids for 30 minutes a day. Like our kid read to them, they read back to them. It's more than just reading. It's someone to look forward to seeing you every day and look what I've accomplished over a week. The Why Try program. Dr. Martin Luther King said it better than anybody else, that everybody can be great because everybody can serve. There's some way that we can help someone else if we just try. We start off with just an idea of a program. Both superintendents came in and agreed with this program. Now we have 40 men that's involved. We could use 60. Now we're doing the boards. What about the girls?
Okay, wait a minute. Let's throw in a little plug for that. When you talk about you've got 40 mentors available right now, you could use 60.
We could use 60.
And what this means, I was shocked when I heard this. If you're someone out there who you think might be able to help a young person, you can mentor them one time a week?
One time a week, 45 minutes.
45 minutes. Mm-hmm. That if you can give that time, you can make a huge difference.
You can change your life.
Mm-hmm. That sounds cliche, but it's so true.
It's so true.
And a lot of it has to do with that consistency. Someone who's there for you, who believes in you, who knows that you can do. You direct alternate programs, and you're very careful to distinguish between alternative and alternate. But basically, these are kids who are considering dropping out, who have nowhere else to go. They're in high school. They're about at that age, around 16, when they can make that decision. But you intervene at that point through Lighthouse.
Correct. Warren County Schools runs the Lifehouse Academy High School. It's a school designed for juniors and seniors, students that would be in their 3rd or 4th year of school. We have 100 students enrolled in our school. They are identified by their guidance counselors for whatever reason the need to come to our school. A lot of them are young mothers, young fathers. Some of them live on their own. I actually have students who are married, and I have students who have been married and divorced. A lot of them are behind, and I have several students who have dropped out, and now they want to come back to school. And what a lot of people don't realize is in the state of Kentucky, you can get your high school diploma till the day you turn 21. And so sometimes I have 18, 19-year-olds who may have been out of school for 1 or 2 years, and they've realized, hey, the road without a diploma is too hard. And the GED is more challenging than I thought it would be. And so they may have only lacked 1 or 2 credits. Maybe a young mother had a baby and decided, I'm just going to drop out. And so I have several students each year that come back, and they may only need 1 or 2 classes. And they come back, and we can let them graduate high school and get that diploma before they may be 20 years old. But I tell them it's never too late to get that diploma, until you obviously turn 21.
And we heard earlier, you know, a lot of students, Mary Ford joined us from the Bowling Green Technical College. She deals with adult learning, and people who choose to go back for their GED. I mean, that in and of itself is a huge commitment for someone, one, to admit that they can't go any further and to jump back in. That's huge. But I think more critical is getting individuals at a younger age to realize the significance of an education. Tell me a little more about that.
I think it's more than getting the kids. You've got to get the parents involved.
Ah, good point.
We have a welfare to work program, and a lot of our young ladies have suffered, had a baby, 18, 19, 20, got a sorry guy, dropped them. Now they're 25 or 30 years old with no GED, no education, no skills. I think if we can change them, they can change their own kids. We have to give them something to look forward to. You know, I think we got to go at both ends. We got to get the kids, but we have to get the parents also. And through our Welfare to Work program, we've graduated over 500 young ladies out of that program at an 82% success rate of not going back on welfare. Most of them went back to school, whether they went to technical college or they came to Western, because they saw that was something in them that they could survive if somebody just pushed them in the right direction.
So that is hugely important.
It's huge.
The parents, and what we forget is it's cyclical in many cases.
That's what
right?
I was thinking, Barb. It's all about breaking the cycle, because unfortunately a lot of these kids had parents, they were born at, you know, their parent was 16 years old. They had a child, and so now, you know, when their child is 16, they may have had a child. And if we can break the cycle and get, you know, the first one to graduate high school, the first one to enroll in college, it begins to breed that mindset of success and can do. And maybe and so once again, that goes back to Big Brothers Big Sisters, goes back to Watra, breaking that cycle, and it takes that one person to step up and change, and you can impact several generations down the road.
Or, you know, the cycle and the normalcy. You know, maybe in your household, education is not a priority. So why should I pursue that? You know, Daddy's got a job at the factory and he's doing just fine. But then these economic changing times makes people refocus. So it is breaking that cycle and getting in there. We're quickly running out of time, but we've been talking about, and this is a special edition of Outlook on WKYU PBS. It's called American Graduate, Let's Make It Happen. And we're talking about how we can keep kids in school, keep kids from dropping out. You know, we've got a number of programs that you've introduced us to today that maybe someone watching could attend to, and we'll put up that information at the end of the show. But leave us with some words of wisdom, if you will, Matt. You deal with an alternate form of education through Lifehouse Academy. It's an alternative high school for students. Words of wisdom.
The need to realize that if you can determine what you want to do in life, there is enough help, enough programs, and if you've got the will, and you can do it.
You've
and
got
that's
the
the key. And that's the going back to goal setting and motivation. I think that's the key. If you've got the will, you want to do it, there's plenty of people, resources, time, efforts that'll help you do it.
Don't take no for an answer, Brian.
I would say, you know, we all have mentors. It's just whether they're positive or negative. And for our community to, you know, look down at our youth or badmouth them or write them off, be part of the solution and not part of the problem. Personally get involved. Don't rely on the school systems, the government, everybody that we expect to handle that. You can personally get involved, and through our program you have a lot of hand-holding, and so you have that support mechanism that you're not left on your own to make or break with that child. We go to a very custom route to make sure you're easing into it.
Big Brothers Big Sisters, Brian Becker, CEO, Abraham Williams, Director of the Housing Authority of Bowling Green. You get the last word.
Stop making excuses for the parents, for the kids. If you want it, go get it. Nobody's going to give it to you. If it's free, watch out, it's nothing free. To those parents and other people who sat there and criticized, you hadn't walked a mile in some of these people's shoes. You don't know how it is coming home if you know if your light's going to be on when you get home. You don't know how to come home when there's nothing in the refrigerator. So how can you study? Yeah, I have a laptop and have computers at home, but a lot of people don't have even hardly electricity at home. Turn the television off. What we found out, the bigger the house, the bigger the library. The smaller the house, the bigger the TV. Stop buying all those Wii games. take them to the library if you need some help.
Take them to the library and get involved. A very special thanks to all of you for helping us launch this initiative. And the initiative is called American Graduate, Let's Make It Happen. A special thanks to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting for helping us fund this, and to WKYU PBS, and to all of our guests on this second installment of our two-part series, American Graduate. I'm Barbara Deeb. Until next time, thanks for joining us. This special edition Outlook, American Graduate, Let's Make It Happen, is made possible in part through a grant from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and from your local public television station, WKYU PBS.